In tonight's episode of 9 to 11, Firehouse 118 has made it through everything that has happened. They were able to endure a tsunami, an earthquake, and multiple assailants. Because they were aware that they could depend on their leader, they had always been able to survive. For them, he was the Rock. They were aware that as long as Bobby Nash was still alive, nothing could have the potential to cause them permanent harm. That Bobby was a wonderful human being. Even though he was not a superhero or anything like that, and despite the fact that he has had his own challenges, no one anticipated that he would surprise everyone by submitting his retirement papers. In addition, his friends and family were unaware that they would be forced to live with a dinosaur. The new captain was nothing but a disaster. It was a misogynistic, racist, and homophobic attitude on Captain Gerard's part. The Chimney and the Hen have collaborated with him in the past. Those were the dark days, and they did not want to return to them. The fact that Bobby expressed a desire to return to his previous job was therefore quite encouraging. He was sorry that he had filled out his paperwork. He desired to fulfill his role as the team's leader. In order to undo what he had done, it was going to require some further bureaucratic effort. In the meantime, the 118 had to make it through without Bobby, and when they were confronted with a fresh task, it was the worst possible time. Their situation was a bee-nado. It was a twister that was composed of bees. A truck was involved in an accident while it was transporting millions of bees, and the truck was involved in the collision. The incident took place on the highway. The load was able to flow over. However, despite the fact that they were free to go wherever they pleased, the bees did not simply fly away. Rather than leaving, they remained in order to puncture as many individuals as was humanly feasible. There was a spiteful nature to those bees. While on their rampage, they may kill thousands of people. There was no preparation made for a bee-nado in Los Angeles. There is a possibility that the mayor may issue a warning to the entire city, but it would be in vain if people did not pay heed to it. In most cases, they do not take it into consideration when it comes to anything else. Are you missing your children? No way. Floating? Not at all. It was inevitable that no one would pay attention to a bee-nado until it claimed their lives. Then, to make matters even more difficult, Athena was assigned a challenging duty. The United States administration reached out to her for assistance. In order to transport him from Arizona to Los Angeles, she was selected by a prisoner. It was Dennis Jenkins who was the prisoner. A police officer was murdered by him. Athena was engaged to the law enforcement officer. She spent years looking for Jenkins in order to bring about justice for her fiancé, and she was finally successful in locating him. She incarcerated him in a prison. There she believed he would pass away, and it would appear that he was on the verge of being released early. Jenkins reached a compromise with the public authorities. In the prison, he shared a cell with Maxwell Fulton. Fulton was a human trafficker who sold girls who were underage to influential individuals all around the country. He was apprehended. He was secured in a prison cell. Unlike everyone else, he refused to name any of his customers. In spite of the fact that it would result in a reduced term for him, he would not accept a deal. That was irrelevant to Fulton because he ended his life by taking his own life when he was incarcerated. His death occurred in a federal prison in Arizona. This matter was looked into. It was determined to be a suicide, and the federal authorities were still hunting for the names of individuals who had committed the rape. Jenkins asserted that Fulton was the one who provided him with the names. It was via this that he was able to secure an early release for himself. In all of his requests, he only requested that Athena be the one to take him to California. He was aware that she despises him. She had the impression that he had chosen her only for the purpose of gloating in her sight. His intention was for her to be aware that he was leaving. It would have been simple for him to sign his new contract and then disappear into the background. He did not have to make a request for Athena. Following everything that she has been through, not at this point. This man was abhorrent to Athena. This was a task that she detested. It was still necessary for her to carry it out since Jenkins would not testify for the government if he did not first have the opportunity to play with Athena. Unfortunately, Athena's day got off to a rocky start. Every single one of their days got off to a rocky beginning. At the time, Bobby was working as a consultant for a television show. He despises being there. Because the fire chief had instructed him to do it, he was obligated to carry it out. During this time, Gerard was essentially torturing everyone who was present at the firehouse. Evidently, he is particularly adept at getting under Buck's skin. Buck desired for him to leave. The ideas that he was coming up with were really insane. In order to make the fire chief realize how unlikable the captain was, He contemplated the possibility that everyone at the firehouse would quit instead. It was also a possibility that he would look for measures to have Gerard dismissed. The previous one was not going to be successful. Both Chimney and Hen informed him that they had already attempted that. As if he were a movie villain, Gerard keeps making appearances. There was no way to get rid of him whatsoever. It was around the time that they were all completely miserable with their days that the accident with the bees took place. Two people, a woman and a daughter, were unable to escape from their automobile, which was encircled by bees. The fact that they were both allergic prevented them from leaving the room. Only one EpiPen was available to them. After the bees had entered the vehicle, the mother used it on her daughter as a natural course of action. The mother was infected as well. While Maddie was on the phone with them, she proceeded to instruct the young girl, who was 8 years old at the time, on how to extract another shot from the single EpiPen. It was successful, and Maddie was the one who rescued the day. Buck also succeeded in removing the bees from the vehicle. They were calmed by his use of smoke. It was successful. Even though he was taking credit for what Buck had done, Gerard continued to punish him. Control was being exercised over the bees up until the time that their transport truck exploded. The bees were shaken up by it. These million bees moved on to encounter additional bees, which resulted in the formation of a bee-nado. It was reported in the media and everywhere else. People continued to disregard it. Despite the fact that there was an issue with bees, there was a woman who was launching a new fragrance, and she decided to have a large party to celebrate. Due to the fact that they attacked her assistant while she was wearing her new smell, the bees preferred her new scent. It has a lovely aroma that the bees adore. He was able to find that out. One of his teams was the one that was dispatched to the location. As a result of his assertion that Eddie was the quickest runner, he suggested that Eddie be the one to be sprayed with the fragrance. As they were getting to the assistant and administering treatment to her, Eddie was frantically racing around. The bee expert was brought in by them. After that, he removed the bees off Eddie using a vacuum cleaner. None of the other people there were hurt. Athena, on the other hand, was confronted by a man who gave the impression of being a federal official and attempted to take Jenkins away from her. That man's scheme was exposed by Athena, who subsequently tied him up in the truck that was attached to his car. Jenkins was able to witness everything. He stated that this was the reason he requested Athena. That he was terrified for his life was what he told her. Athena was the only person he trusted to refrain from being dishonest, and he was aware of information about persons who could be responsible for his death. The flight to Los Angeles was taken by Athena. Once again, she was one of the individuals who did not pay attention to the bee-nado. It was during the flight that she and Jenkins were present when millions of bees flew into the engine. They were experiencing a crash landing. Additionally, Buck was the one who saved Gerard's life, but due to an accident at work, Gerard may not survive.